Today I want to talk about the possibility for DLC in Pokemon Legends ZA. Credible rumors are confirming that DLC is likely, so today I want to take a look at every single thing that could be brought into this new playable experience. What's going on, everyone? It's Dusty Go-Goat. Welcome back to my headcanon. The elephant in the room is that this new ambitious game only takes place in Lumiose City. But because the Kalos region and Generation 6 introduced so much history, lore, characters, locations, and legendary Pokemon, it'd be a shame if so many of these things were not eventually added to this long-awaited Kalos sequel. Let's start with all of the legendary Pokemon that could be added in this new DLC. Zygarde will be in the main story of Pokemon Legends ZA, but I'm not so sure about Xerneas and Yveltal. In the X and Y story, Team Flare is using these legendary beasts and extracting their life essence to power the ultimate weapon. If Xerneas and Yveltal are not in the main story of Legends ZA, I think it would be incredibly interesting to extend the shelf life of Legends ZA by creating an entirely new side quest for these legendary Pokemon. And what I want to see the most is these Pokemon getting new forms. In Legends Arceus, we saw the introduction of Origin form Dialga and Palkia. I think we could see one of two things: a Mega Xerneas and Mega Yveltal, or even a primal form for both of these. Mewtwo is another legendary Pokemon that is in the X and Y games. Mewtwo, of course, has two different Mega Evolutions. I think it'd be really cool and easy for them to introduce a new side quest where we go looking for Mewtwo, the hunt for Mewtwo. We could get on a train in Lumiose City and travel to the Pokemon Village in the Kalos region. I'm imagining that we fight these legendaries the same way that we fight the rogue Mega Pokemon, and Mewtwo specifically could flip between the different forms. And once you defeat it, you're able to actually capture Mewtwo and get both of its Mega Stones. This would be so hype. The same thing goes for Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. They don't have alternate forms. They do have regional forms. In base X and Y, these legendary birds roam around Kalos, but because we are limited to Lumiose City, I could see these bird Pokemon roaming around Lumiose City. This is updated on your map, and the Pokemon can just roam freely. Literally every single one of these legendary fights would be so different because of ZA's real-time combat system. And if we're to adjust our attention towards the Kalos Mythicals, these are Pokemon that weren't even accessible in base X and Y. But I want proper side quests, right, in order to encounter these Pokemon. I want to see these Pokemon in some sort of environment. I want to adventure out to find Deontay, Volcanion, Hoopa. I want to battle them in the new battle style, see some sort of story, and finally capture these beasts. Deontay, of course, has a Mega Evolution, so I think that would be a really great DLC reward. Volcanion could appear in the Lumiose outskirts or maybe the desert area, and we'll talk about locations next. And Hoopa has two forms, Confined and Unbound. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, these are the Generation 6 Hoenn remakes, Hoopa was a pretty big part of post-game. Hoopa Unbound would create these portals where the player could access legendary Pokemon. I think there's an opportunity here to reuse Hoopa in the same way that we saw it in the Hoenn games. Hoopa could be critical to unlocking legendary hunting portals beyond Lumiose City, right? This whole game, Legends ZA, right? The identity of this game is bound to Lumiose City. It might feel a little unfaithful if we were able to actually travel outside of the city, but I think a really nice way to do this is to create these portals that we can unlock throughout the city. And this is a great way to add content but still make it believable. The legendary Pokemon that we found scattered throughout the Paldean region felt kind of shoehorned into the game. It didn't really make sense, but if Hoopa has lost its rings throughout the city, I can totally buy into me, the player character, stepping through that ring in order to find a variety of different legendary Pokemon. Honestly, no, that'd be so cool. This could be a way for us to actually travel to other and see other parts of the Kalos region in this new engine. You're in Lumiose City, you step through a portal, all of a sudden you were in the Pokemon Village cave fighting Mega Mewtwo X. I really think there's a lot of possibility here with the Kalos Mythical Pokemon. Again, they were not introduced properly in the base game, so I really want to see more of these Kalos Mythicals. And so, building on this idea of Hoopa creating these legendary portals, we could see more of the Kalos region, but I also think there's an opportunity here to see more of the Hoenn region. These Hoenn remakes in Generation 6 really did function like a sequel, a successor to Pokemon X and Y. Could you imagine stepping through one of these rings made by Hoopa Unbound, and when you step out, you're in the Cave of Origin in Sutopolis City, fighting Groudon or Kyogre. You step through and get access to the top of the Sky Pillar. Rayquaza's right there, mega evolving, ready to battle you. Maybe even Deoxys is up there as well. We could get access to Latios and Latias. That could be a little side quest. You first hear about those Pokemon on the TV at your house in Little Root Town. Can you imagine stepping through a portal and ending up in Little Root Town in the Hoenn region? A little bit less likely, but I still think there's an opportunity for the Reggie Trio shrines to be accessible through these Hoopa portals, and maybe there's a little puzzles that you can do before you have to capture the Reggies. But if we wanted to get a little bit more ambitious, I think we could talk now about new locations. The first thing that we got to talk about is the Lumiose outskirts. There are areas around Lumiose City, and I think on one hand this is the most realistic, because if we are to see anything outside of Lumiose City, I think it would be very natural for them to just expand the in-game map. And I think what's also important to note here is that playing on the outskirts of Lumiose City would offer players biomes that are not so industrial, but you could still see the city and the Lumiose Tower in the background of your play session, which again, I think maintains the identity of Legends EA. There are a variety of routes in X and Y around Lumiose City. Route 4 has a lot of flower gardens. Route 13 has the windy desert with the power plant, and Route 14 has swampy forest wetlands. And these different biomes could also affect the real-time combat. If I were on my copium, I would say there's a lot of fan favorite spots in the Kalos region. I'm imagining these little mini zones that you could travel to, maybe through some of these Hoopa rings that I discussed earlier in a way to fast travel to these locations. Or maybe there's a cleaner reason for how we could actually travel, like a train station. Some iconic Kalos locations include the Parfum Palace, the Reflection Cave, Terminus Cave, and Snowbell City, as well as the Winding Woods. Again, I struggle with this because I'm asking myself, why would we go to some of these locations, right? Sure, we could access some different biomes, but these locations would not feel like Legends EA. And I think if Game Freak is going to break this, there would need to be a higher purpose, like some of the legendary Pokemon I mentioned earlier, or story beats. But I do have some ideas for iconic Kalos locations that would be believable. First up is the Kalos power plant. This is a location that kind of infamously is left unexplored. We can access it a little bit in the base game, but there is a lot of mystery behind it, and it's a location that feels like it's hiding a mystery. Like I said, Volcanion could be accessible in the Kalos power plant, and I think in terms of a story, it's literally the power source for Lumiose City, so I believe this would be very easy to tie into the main story. Another fun idea is the Kalos Pokemon League, and what excites me is that this Pokemon League could function as a battle facility. Imagine all the different types of returning characters from within Kalos or outside in the broader Pokemon universe competing in the Pokemon League with the real-time combat. Any legacy fight that happens in Legends EA is going to be so different because of this real-time action combat. There's a lot of characters that could show up in a facility, a battle facility like the Pokemon League, and we'll talk about characters in a little bit. I think it's also important to mention Cloud City. This is a post-game location in X and Y that didn't have too much to offer, but it's a location that canonically exists within the territory of Southern Kalos. Southern Kalos is a mythical location that fans have anticipated access to for over a decade. This mystery region is mentioned in X and Y. It is physically seen on the map within Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and in a recent data breach, we learned that Southern Kalos is more than just a name. It was something that Game Freak had started conceptualizing. Cloud City could be a really cool location to travel to and learn a little bit more about the Southern Kalos culture. You know, the Friend Safari is also located in Cloud City, and that could be a really cool way for us to access non-native Pokemon to the Kalos region. In Pokemon Legends Arceus, we had the space-time distortions, which introduced a lot of non-native Pokemon to Hisui, Pokemon that wouldn't make sense in the timeline of that game. We could see a similar thing with the Friend Safari, where Pokemon from other regions, maybe the Hoenn region, populate there. We can capture them and eventually then get their Mega Evolution Stones. That is totally a possibility. And I wanted to mention this. There's also the Kuraway Town train station. Again, in X and Y, this is the rumored access point to Southern Kalos. There is a train station. It would be a realistic way to expand what we know about Southern Kalos. Maybe we can travel to a location that is currently unknown or undiscovered and learn more about Southern Kalos there. And an honorable mention for me is access to the Paldea region, right? Pokemon Legends ZA and Scarlet and Violet, they're both Generation 9 games. And like I said, on the Paldean map in Scarlet and Violet, you can see this landmass, which I think looks like that would be where Southern Kalos would be. But because we're going back to the Kalos region, it would be kind of cool if at the very least Paldea is mentioned in some way. So you know what? Let's talk about returning characters. What was interesting about the Generation 9 DLC was that we went to locations outside of the Paldean region. We all expected to see more content and storylines from Paldea, and we didn't really get that. I think there's a really cool opportunity for Legends EA to give us new iconic battles with some of the Paldean characters. Our rival Nemona is obsessed with battling. It would be so fitting for her to be a rival character in Legends EA in this new real-time battle combat system. Arven could also be introduced alongside Nemona, with Penny probably as well. Honestly, any of the gym leaders from Paldea would be great to see return. And I'm not saying all of them, just a couple notable ones. Iono is like a fan favorite, right? Larry would be so cool to see. Maybe he's on a business trip to the Kalos region, to Lumio City, and we kind of interrupt him and get to battle him. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Any of the Elite Four members as well. Realistically, Lumio City is a city. This is a travel destination for business, culture, and competition. In my mind, every single iconic, battleable trainer in the Kalos region has an opportunity to return in DLC for us to compete against. You've got the rivals, Shauna, Tierno, Trevor, Callum, and Serena. The gym leaders, Viola, Grant, Ramos, Clement. Yeah, what's Clement? What's Clement and Bonnie doing? They should be in the Lumios Tower. You've got Valerie, Olympia, and Wolfric. The Elite Four members are some of the coolest. Team Flair member Malva, Cybolt, Wickstrom, and Drasna could all be playable literally as Elite Four members. And I said it earlier, maybe we leave the city and go to the Pokemon League in order to access them. And I think Karina as well. Karina is the fighting type gym leader. You fight her pretty early on, but she's a main part of the story in the lore of Mega Evolution. She gives you a Lucario in X and Y that undergoes Mega Evolution. I think there's an opportunity for Karina to play a pretty big role in DLC, where we learn more about Mega Evolution. Maybe we meet her grandfather, Gherkin, and we get additional Mega lore. And of course, there's a lot of really formidable and iconic characters from the Hoenn region. I'm not expecting all of these characters to return, but I think it'd be really cool to see some cameos. We've got two champions in the Hoenn region, Steven Stone and Wallace. These could be seriously tough post-game battles. There's some cool gym leaders like Brawley and Flannery. And fun fact, we see Gary, Trainer Blue, the original rival in Red, Blue, and Yellow. He's speaking French. In the current timeline of Legends EA, he would be maybe close to 30 or 40 years old. So a brand new design for Trainer Blue would be also really appreciated. And what's a game without a Kanto reference? That'd be so much fun. Like seriously, I'm just getting in my head, but like imagine doing these fights again with the real-time combat system. I think Blue's team is like he's got a Scizor, a Tyranitar, Umbreon, Electivire. He could have a Mega Blastoise. Such cool Pokemon. I just think there's so much potential for these real-time combat battles, especially when facing off against legacy trainers. It is great that we're returning to Kalos, but in some ways, ZA feels like a spin-off more than a successor. So bringing back these legacy characters would really cement it in its Kalos identity. Let's talk about new Mega Evolutions for the DLC. There is a prevailing rumor that originated from the Terra League that states that there will be a new Mega Evolution form for Zeraora. You know, because it's not Generation 6, if Zeraora does get a new Mega Evolution, I would hope that it ties into the story of Legends ZA in some way. I want a reason for why Zeraora should get a Mega over something like Volcanion, over Hoopa, or even Xerneas and Yveltal. And like I said at the top, Xerneas and Yveltal, really cool Pokemon, and I would love to see them get primal evolutions to parallel Groudon and Kyogre. Legends EA introduced so many new Mega Evolutions, and I'm glad Pokemon from a variety of different generations are getting love, but it's disappointing that Kalos native Pokemon aren't getting Mega Evolution forms. Talonflame, Pangoro, Aegislash, Vern, you got Go-Goat, Heliolisk, Clowetz, Pinsir, both of the fossil Pokemon, Trevenant, Gourgeist, Avalugg. Heck, I think even Sylveon, which is the flagship for the fairy type in Generation 6, Sylveon, should absolutely get a Mega Evolution. That honestly seems criminal. Goodra, as the pseudo-legendary of the Kalos region, is also well overdue for a Mega Evolution, right? We got Mega Dragonite. I would love to see a Mega Goodra. I mean, realistically, the list of new Mega Evolutions could go on endlessly, but I really do think a lot of these key legendary Pokemon that are iconic to the Kalos region deserve to be given new forms. When X and Y came out and I found out that none of the Kalos Pokemon actually received Mega Evolutions, it was pretty disappointing. And I think in the same vein as this, there are so many great Paldean Pokemon. And I want to focus on the starter Pokemon here. I think it would be so cool to get these Generation 9 Pokemon starters and be able to Mega Evolve them into new forms. A Pokemon X and Y playthrough is so much fun, first with your Kalos starters and then with the Kanto starters later on in Lumio City. Imagine running into Clavel. He's sporting a new green outfit and he notices you as a trainer with a lot of potential. He explains that he's from the Paldea region and offers you one of 3 starter Pokemon. This would be so reminiscent of the original X and Y games where Sycamore gives you a choice between one of the Kanto starters as well as their Mega Evolution Stone. It's disappointing enough these starter Pokemon did not get new special terrestrialization forms, so a Mega would be just as fitting. And I want to be clear, my point isn't that every single one of these things will be introduced in the Legends ZA DLC. My point is there's a lot of content from the original Kalos games. People love Pokemon X and Y, and now that we're receiving a return to this region, I am grateful for what Legends ZA is trying to do, but it would be disappointing if it wasn't simultaneously able to pay homage to all of the great characters, Pokemon, and locations found in these beloved games. I would love to hear from all of you about what you want to see in a Legends ZA DLC. I've got a lot of new videos coming up about the future of Pokemon, so subscribe to catch the next one. Links are in the description to support on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you. Let me know in the comments what you think I got wrong.